What's up guys, Eric here. I'm coming to you today with a video to cover a very popular request on the channel. And that is that you guys apparently want to see what a playback session looks like and how it's constructed. And so, well, here we are. I'm going to give you the anatomy of a playback session today. I'm going to give you an idea of basically what goes into building one of these things and what kind of little features and tricks and all this stuff I might employ in a session. And most importantly, we'll tell you why. And hopefully by the end of this, you will have a good idea of how to build your own and hopefully a bunch of little tricks you can steal from me. Let's get started. All right, now here we are. We're at the bird's eye view, of an entire session. To be honest, a little messy in areas. A little messy. Could be cleaner. But before we get started, I do want to jump in and I want to note that this session is built based off of the needs of the operator and the artist and the show. There's no one way to set up a session. I've seen setups that are simpler than this. I've seen setups that are way more complex than this. It all depends on what the show needs. So this is just like a snapshot of what I'm building and how I'm building sessions right now for the shows that I'm building right now. This can change at any time, but hopefully this at least gives you some sort of a starting point. Okay, so now the overview, you can see obviously we're running in arrangement view. Arrangement view is extremely helpful because, especially with me, I like to change arrangements a lot, and a lot of the artists that I work with tend to become accustomed to that and tend to like that. So arrangement view allows you to, well, chop stuff up and move it around and rearrange things very easily, just like a regular DAW, as opposed to session view, which is, I don't know, I started out with session view. I can't imagine running session view anymore. That would blow my mind. So let's just, you can see obviously, we have our songs that run left to right. Right now, these are in order. Some people just keep them in random order and they'll use a setlist app, which I do. We'll get into that in a second. But I like to always place things in the order they're being played, especially if songs are running into each other with transitions, etc. So anyway, that's that. Let's look at our tracks. Let's start at the top here. So the first two channels or tracks that we have here, I should say, you see our song and sections. And these are what are referred to in the Ableton world as dummy tracks, I guess, or these are tracks that are full of dummy clips. So these clips up here, these such as this, these don't do anything. There's no information in them. These are just blank MIDI clips. And the reason they exist is because particularly when you're in rehearsal, occasionally at a show, if you need to navigate quickly to a song, instead of clicking the little flags that you've set up, the little markers that you've set up like this, they're all tiny. But if you give yourself, a dummy clip, it essentially functions as a huge button for the song. So if you need to jump between songs, it's as simple as just clicking on it, and the playhead is going to automatically position itself at the beginning of the clip. So makes it much easier to navigate. And then the same thing applies on a smaller basis to this section, to the sections channel. You can see I have these sections labeled based off of, frankly, what they are, right? Top of the song, verse 1, pre-chorus 1, chorus, post-chorus, middle 8, aka bridge. And these function the same way. These are typically more useful for like rehearsal if you want to jump in and be like, oh yeah, let's run first verse again, starting at second chorus, whatever. You can just click on a clip, and it'll start your playhead right at the top of that clip. Or you can zoom in and be like, okay, cool, let's start 2 bars before chorus 2, and at least you can see where chorus 2 is, you know what I mean? So, dummy clips. Next up, we have our click track. Okay, so the click that we're running here is MIDI. Why is it MIDI? Because MIDI is better. MIDI is way more flexible and frankly requires less space. I know there are people out there who like want to bounce audio clicks for every single song. To me, that's absurd. It's particularly annoying when you want to rearrange things and you need to like copy and paste a click all around, and hopefully you copied it right and it lines up. But also, that's just like one more full-length song, or one full song length audio file that's just playing one sound over and over again, or maybe two sounds. That could easily just be programmed as MIDI and play these two tiny little metronome clips or whatever you want to drop in there. I use the Ableton metronome. You can put whatever you want. You could put a, cat farting in there. It doesn't matter, woodblock, etc. For those of you who don't know how to get the Ableton metronome, I'll show you that real quick. I have had a few people ask that. So you go into your applications, go into Ableton Live. Assuming you're on a Mac, you right click on it, hit show package contents. If you're on a PC, good luck. Contents, app resources, miscellaneous, metronome, samples, and then you have your metronome and your accented metronome right here. And then you can simply drag those into, so for the metronome, I create a drum rack, and you just drag them into two spots on the drum rack. And it's as easy as that. And then it's as simple as like programming one bar of click and then just looping it. Piece of cake. Okay, next up is our slate, right? So slate is our things like our count-offs and song titles and section titles and things like that. They tell us, well, yeah, those things. And you can see here that these are also programmed as MIDI. Let's go to my slate track. You can see I have all sorts of little slates for intro, out, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and song titles. The reason this is useful, again, this is slates are another thing that I'll often see people record as audio, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. The reason I like doing it as MIDI is because, for example, I have a slate right here that says 1, 2, 3, or no, it says verse 2, 3, 4, right? I have another one, right? It's a good example. Okay, so here's one that says 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, these are very common counts, right? Whether it's 2 bars or 1 bar count. Instead of having to, again, drag those around, hopefully they line up, or re-record them, I can just literally copy this block, and if I need to put it at another section right here, I can just paste it. Wait, whoops, I gotta copy it first. Paste it, and the exact same slate programming will paste over instantly. It's a matter of speed, it's a matter of ease. So that's why I like doing MIDI slates. Let's see, next I have a LV guide. LV guide is lead vocal guide, and to be honest, as you can see, if you look closely on this track, there aren't any except for this one song right here. And I remember this was on tour, and the artist asked, when we get to this section, can you just play the lead melody in my ear really quick, a bar ahead, so I remember what my starting note is. And it's like, obviously, yeah. I know artists who will put the entire lead vocal in every song, the whole song, and they can just double it and sing over it. You can also put things like piano notes, whatever you want in here. This is routed to go specifically and only to the lead singer in this case, but just as a little cheat sheet for them. Okay. Next section, live stems. Okay, this is a big one. Let's open this up. So as you can see, the live stems is a group of groups. And you can see here these subgroups are things like drums, bass, etc. These are all our stems. At least all the stems that are being played live. Or I should say that are audible live. And you can see further down we have unused stems. Actually, I like to change that to dead stems. A little funnier. Live dead, But I have these in here, grouped by instrument, just for sheer organization. Nice little color coding. I do want to jump in here and point out a quick routing note. I'm going to take a quick detour here for us. If you look over to the right on this session view, you can see I've set up multiple outputs, 5 different sets of stereo pairs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and 10. For those of you who, are clever with it, you probably can tell these 10 outputs could correspond to the 10 outputs of a Play Audio 12. And the reason we do this, or the reason I do this, is because it helps with quickly visualizing and identifying various routing concerns. What I mean by that is, like, for instance, drums or percussion will typically have its own pair, right? Bass, I like to have its own output pair. But things like guitar, keys, effects, a lot of times those will get merged down into, a single output pair. And then background vocals will be another output pair, as an example. Now you can do this however you want, but I like to set this up and sort of like merge the routing down. It's kind of like, I imagine it as like lanes on a highway getting narrower, because when you're in a sound check or something like that, and the engineer gets back to you and says, oh yeah, I got percussion coming down the background vocals channel or something like that, instead of hunting down each and every individual little group, it can be really helpful to quickly jump over and have all of these outputs all together, and you can quickly solo one of them and just listen to it and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I hear the problem, yeah. And then you can go back, once you've found the problem, and adjust the routing. So, as you can see, the routing here is achieved via sends. So, but you can see each group has its send turned all the way up to its corresponding output, right? And as you can see, again, things like guitar, keys, effects, or aux and effects, they all go out the same output pair, and then the rest of them have their own individual outs. Same thing with the clicks. That way I can go over here and in one little tiny segment of the screen, I can see all my outputs and solo and quickly adjust. I can also quickly adjust their output routing. As opposed to having to go in here and say, oh, guitar, keys, aux, I have to change the routing on all of them individually. No, they're all merged down into this one lane. I can just change the routing of that lane. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Next up, Helix PC. These are Helix program changes. For those of you not familiar, Helix is a guitar amp modeler. On this particular tour, our guitarist was using a Helix, and so we basically set up a whole mess of program changes via dummy MIDI clips to send to her Helix and change all the patches automatically. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, next up we've got dead stems. So this is, you probably know what this is. This is all the stems that we are not using, that are not being played live, that are not being sent to the front of house board, I should say, or sent to the house in any way. We keep these here mainly for reference if we ever need to reference a part, but one cool trick, I will say, you may notice that the dead stems group, like the whatever the master group for them or whatever you call it, is currently inactive, right? One nice little trick and nice benefit to having your dead stems here like this is that at any point, if you want to reference the entire mix, you want to hear the entire mix, you want to hear, you just basically want to reintegrate all of those dead stems back to life, I guess you might say. Even while a track is playing, I don't know why you would do that, but it's as simple as turning this back on, and then you basically have the entire track playing. Pretty easy. Below this, we have our lead vocals. This is just in here for reference. In fact, as you can see, the dead stems and all these remaining tracks, you can see I've color-coded them as like dark gray to essentially visually indicate to me that these are not to be these are not to be heard. These are mainly in here for reference, for utility, should we ever need them. But like the lead vocals, for instance, you can see this track is off. We don't use it. I just turn them on if we need to do, like if we're doing a rehearsal, a sound check, the singer's not there. Or in that case of the lead vocal guide, you know, the singer wanted that really quick, so we had the track there. I just grab a snippet of it, drag it up, good to go. Below that we have as lives. So as lives, if you're not familiar with that term, are basically recordings of the live instruments. So in this show, we've got drums, piano, and guitar that are live. And so it can be helpful at times. We haven't really had to use this, but it can be helpful at times to have those live instruments, or those live stems, I should say, in the session, just in case, again, you need to reference something, if there's some sort of weird a technical emergency, and like a certain instrument isn't working on stage, having these as backups that are available that are playing along with, you know, with the playback can be helpful, and it doesn't really take much to do it. Lastly, we have our references. So these are our reference masters. I like to keep these in here. To be honest, I don't use them very often, but at least when I'm initially building the set, I use them a little bit more just to A/B against and just make sure that, you know, my levels, my mixes are the same. If I ever need to, for some reason, reference the reference and not the stems for a part. Actually, I've never really had to do that, but it's there if you need it, and it's a simple backup utility kind of thing. And that's that. Now, while I'm here, I do want to comment on one thing. I meant to do this at the beginning to get the boring thing out of the way at the beginning, but you made it this far, so I do want to comment. I want to make a little quick comment here on organization, right? We all love organization, don't we? Don't we? When I start building a set, or I should say this, if any of you have built an Ableton set and you just open it up and start dragging stems in, you know, it's no problem. Ableton handles it well, but you also probably know that it doesn't really organize them in any way. It just takes them and puts them in this samples folder, in which case it'll create a third folder called imported. The problem with this is that it's a mess. It's just one giant folder, and unless your stems are like impeccably labeled, it can turn into a huge mess. I mean, there are many times when I've seen, you know, multiple stems come from the same engineer and they're labeled all the same, and they might just be like BVs, or guitar. And they might not even have a song title, any sort of indication. So like in the event that you need to go in and you need to grab a stem, you need to replace a stem, it can be a huge pain in the butt to go into this big messy folder and try and, oh my God, there's 7 guitar stems. Which one is for the song I need? So what I typically do at the onset of a new show is I'll manually create an audio folder, and then I'll create the subfolders in it that I want. So for example, the as lives that I mentioned earlier, I have them in here separated by instrument. I have my mastered stems. I just made a video about stem mastering that's going to be huge. I don't know if it's going to come out before or after this video. If it's already out, please go watch it. If it's not out, like, comment, subscribe, and just like stay tuned, because that's a huge video. Really important. I've got miscellaneous. This is things like anything from weird sound effects, slates, my metronome samples, just like any like random sounds or audio that like don't really fit into these other categories. And then of course I have my references again, which we saw in the set. These are my master references should I ever need them. But what's cool about this is that if you build this structure, this folder hierarchy and structure ahead of time, and put your audio files into these folders first, then when you go to drag them into Ableton, it'll keep them there. It won't move them to an imported folder. It'll keep them where they are. And so you can actually maintain your structural organization ahead of time before Ableton has a chance to screw it up. So hopefully that makes sense. And it's like a boring thing. Organization is like, I don't know, some people love it. But I've just been through too many sets where I have to go into that stupid imported folder and just dig through just an endless list of like poorly named files, that I realize that if you build the structure ahead of time, it will save you the headaches later. Oh, okay. Guys, I think that's it. I think we covered everything. Oh, no, one more thing. AbleSet. I've talked about this in previous videos, but a lot of you have asked about this, and a lot of you seem to love it. I love AbleSet, and I do want to quickly note, let's open AbleSet up here, and just give it a little bit of time to shine. AbleSet, if you're new to it, if you haven't seen it in my prior videos, is like a new setlist app, and oh my gosh, it's the best. It's inexpensive, incredibly well designed, well organized. The developer, his name's Leo, is like an incredibly attentive, very dedicated, and talented developer. I got AbleSet. I stumbled upon AbleSet like the month it came out, and I got it right away, and I was so impressed because I was really unimpressed with all prior setlist apps. They're all really janky and just like, they just feel really GarageBand. AbleSet is really very impressively well designed. So you can see I have a set list here. These titles are automatically created based off of the markers that I placed in the set. And you can see even the ones that have an actual end or a stop marker, you can see they have space between them, but the songs that run into each other, obviously you can see are actually butted up against each other and joined, which is great. If you hit this little caret thingy, it will actually automatically read, remember the sections, the dummy clip sections channel or track that I made? It'll automatically read those and turn them into like spots that you can click on in AbleSet and quickly jump to it. Very smart, love it. What I particularly love is performance mode, right? So this is just a big dumb idiot mode. Just shows you exactly what you need. Very well organized. You can make this thing like pulse with the metronome. You can change colors of sections and all this stuff. I haven't even gotten that far in it yet. I've just been watching all the features that Leo rolls out all the time. But what I love about this is that it's just big, dumb, and stupid. And like with this particular set, I can literally just go through and just blindly hit spacebar because it automatically cues everything that needs to be done. I could set one of those little birds up that has water in his butt and it just goes like this. Those are pretty old. You might not know what those are. But I mean, a chimp could run this thing. And if a chimp could run it, that means I have a good chance of being able to run it too. The best part that I love more than anything else is that, as you can see, setlist runs inside a browser, right? So basically, what's really cool about this is that any device within the wireless network of that this computer is connected to can run the set list. So what does that mean? That means if you have multiple people on stage who want to control a set list, let's say, control the set list. Let's say there's a section where maybe the drummer's running the show the whole time, but there's a section where it's just the piano player and the singer, right? And the rest of the band leaves the stage. Piano player could have a little iPad and just be controlling the session wirelessly. Also really great for walk-ons. So if someone on stage is controlling your playback, you don't have an offstage playback engineer, again, as long as you're connected to the same network, you could pop on your phone and see the same, everything we just saw, and trigger your walk-on from offstage and then walk on. It's nice and epic, you know, all that good stuff. And all you have to do is carry a router with you. It's dumb easy. Like $60 router will do you fine. So anyway, I have no official affiliation with AbleSet. I don't get anything if you download it. If you do, I don't know, message Leo and just be like, hey, Eric sent me. I guess that might be nice, but like, I just genuinely like this thing, and I think it's the best setlist app on the market right now. So couldn't recommend more. Okay, that's the end. I think that's it. Hopefully I covered everything for you guys. If I didn't, comment below, ask me all your questions. I'll do my best to answer them as always. And as always, if you need a playback rig built, if you need an Ableton session built or improved, or again, if the stem mastering video is out, this will make sense. If you want your stems to be mastered so they sound exactly like your record, which they don't always, go watch the video. Contact me email me. I'll be happy to set you up and take your show up a letter grade or two. Cool. All right, guys, until next time, take care.